And in stage 4 now, instead of having this loosely developed crowd, we now have the crowd as the main identity of the group, where we have multiple dyads, so usually individual heterosexual couples, which associate together. So if you look at any sitcom, typically that will be where those people are at. We have several couples and they associate together. Right, so again, we have this Asian socialization where we are learning here how we are to respond to our partners, how we as a couple are to respond to other couples through our peers, through those around us. And finally, in stage 5, right, where we have our couples becoming more mature in their own relationships, they're starting to have their own families, and now this crowd dissolves, right? We don't hang out as big couple groups anymore because each of those dyads, those couples, are starting to have their own families. They want to focus on their own relationships, right? So that crowd dissolves. So what's important to note is that at each level of these stages, right, we are having conformity occurring within these cliques and crowds, right? Along each step of the way, as you have a new group, individuals are going to start conforming, so following what the group norms are. That could be the way they dress, the language they use. So do they use like really posh, sophisticated language? They use a lot of slang, they swear a lot. All of those things are being adopted by members of this group, right? So as parents, or older people who you know, you may see that they're quite cautious of who you hang out with, right? Because during these processes, depending on who you hang out with, right, it's very difficult to avoid this process, right? If an individual starts hanging out with people who use a certain type of language and have some certain attitudes, it's very likely that any individual joining that group will start to also speak that type of language and have those types of attitudes. All right, so there's a good reason to be aware of who you hang out with, right? What groups do you belong to? Because this often happens subconsciously. All right, so hopefully we have a better understanding of these objectives. Sorry for being in the way. Defining peers, cliques, and crowds. Describing Dunphy's theory of cliques and crowds, and describing or explaining how social conformity facilitates socialization. So maybe I'll just touch on that one more second. The idea is that socialization is how we learn what's normal, and through social conformity, we adopt the norms, so the normal ideas of that group.